Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. And this is today's episode 12 of Little Women. And we're going to pick up where we left off. Laurie, you're an angel. How shall I ever thank you? Fly at me again. I rather liked it, said Laurie, looking mischievous, a thing he had not done for a fortnight. No, thank you. I'll do it by proxy when your grandpa comes. Don't tease, but go home and rest, for you should be up half the night. Bless you, Teddy. Bless you. Jo had backed into a corner, and as she finished her speech, she vanished precipitately into the kitchen, where she sat down upon a dresser and told the assembled cast that she was happy, oh, so happy, while Laurie departed, feeling that he had made a rather neat thing of it. That's the interferingest chap I ever see. But I forgive him and do hope Mrs. March is coming right away, said Hannah with an air of relief when Jo told the good news. Meg had a quiet rapture, then brooded over the letter while Jo set the sick room in order, and Hannah knocked up a couple of pies in case of company unexpected. A breath of fresh air seemed to blow through the house, and something better than sunshine brightened the rooms. Everything appeared to feel the hopeful change. Beth's bird began to chirp again, and a half-blown rose was discovered by Aunt Amy's bush in the window. The fire seemed to burn with unusual cheeriness, and every time the girls met, their pale faces broke into smiles as they hugged one another, whispering encouragingly, "Mother's coming, dear. Mother's coming." Everyone rejoiced but Beth. She lay in that heavy stupor, alike unconsciousness of hope and joy, doubt and anger. It was a piteous sight, the once rosy face so changed and vacant, the once busy hands so weak and wasted, the once smiling lips quite dumb, and the once pretty, well-kept hair scattered roughly and tangled on the pillow. All day she lay so, only rousing now and then to mutter, "Water," with lips so parched she could hardly shape the word. All day Jo and Meg hovered over her, watching and waiting, hoping and trusting in God and Mother, and all day the snow fell, the bitter wind raged, and the hours dragged slowly by. But night came at last, and every time the clock struck, the sisters, still sitting on either side of the bed, looked at each other with brightening eyes, for each hour brought help nearer. The doctor had been in to say that some change for better or worse would probably take place about midnight, at which time he would return. Hannah, quite worn out, lay down on the sofa at the bed's foot and fell fast asleep. Mr. Lawrence marched to and fro in the parlor, feeling that he would rather face a rebel battery than Mrs. March's countenance as she entered. Laurie lay on the rug, pretending to rest, but staring into the fire with a thoughtful look which made his black eyes beautifully soft and clear. The girls never forgot that night, for no sleep came to them as they kept their watch, with that dreadful sense of powerlessness which comes to us in hours like those. "If God spares Beth, I will never complain again," whispered Meg earnestly. "If God spares Beth, I'll try to love and serve him all my life," answered Jo with equal fervor. "I wish I had no heart, it aches so," sighed Meg after a pause. "If life is often as hard as this, I don't see how we ever shall get through it," added her sister despondently. Here the clock struck 12, and both forgot themselves in watching Beth, for they fancied a change passed over her wan face. The house was still as death, and nothing but the wailing of the wind broke the deep hush. Weary, Hannah slept on, and no one but the sister saw the pale shadow which seemed to fall upon the little bed. An hour went by, and nothing happened except Laurie's quiet departure for the station. Another hour, still no one came, and anxious fears of delay in the storm, or accidents by the way, or worst of all, a great relief at Washington hunted the girls. It was past 2 when Jo stood at the window, thinking how dreary the world looked in its winding sheet of snow, heard the movement by the bed, and turned quickly, saw Meg kneeling before her mother's easy chair with her face hidden. A dreadful fear passed coldly over Jo as she thought, "Beth is dead, and Meg is afraid to tell me." She was back at her post in an instant, and to her excited eyes a great change seemed to have taken place. The fever flush and the look of pain were gone, and the beloved little face looked so pale and peaceful in its utter response that Joe felt no desire to weep or to lament. Leaning low over this dearest of her sisters, she kissed the damp forehead with her heart on her lips and softly whispered, "Goodbye, my Beth, goodbye." As if awaked by the stir, Hannah started out of her sleep, hurried to the bed, looked at Beth, felt her hands, listened at her lips, and then, throwing her apron over her head, sat down to rock to and fro, exclaiming, under her breath, "The fever's turned. She's sleeping natural. Her skin's damp. She breathes easy. Praise be given. Oh, my goodness me." Before the girls could believe the happy truth, the doctor came to confirm it. He was a homely man, but they thought his face quite heavenly when he smiled and said, with a fatherly look at them, "Yes, my dears, I think the little girl will pull through this time. Keep the house quiet, let her sleep, and when she wakes, give her." What they were to give neither heard, for both crept into the dark hall and, sitting on the stairs, held each other close, rejoicing with hearts too full of words. When they went back to be kissed and cuddled by faithful Hannah, they found Beth lying as she used to do, with her cheek pillowed on her hand, and the dreadful pallor gone, and breathing quietly as if just fallen asleep. "If mother would only come now," said Joe, as the winter night as the winter night began to wane. "See," said Meg, coming up with a white half-open rose. "I thought this would hardly be ready to lay in Beth's hand tomorrow, if she went away from us. But it has blossomed in the night, and now I mean to put it in my vase here, so that when the darling wakes, the first thing she sees will be the little rose and mother's face." Never had the sun risen so beautifully, and never had the world seemed so lovely as it did to the heavy eyes of Meg and Joe as they looked out in the early morning when their long, sad vigil was done. "It looks like a fairy world," said Meg, smiling to herself as she stood behind the curtain, watching the dazzling sight. "Hark!" cried Joe, starting to her feet. Yes, there was the sound of bells at the door below. A cry from Hannah, then Laurie's voice saying in a cheerful whisper, "Girls, she's come. She's come." Chapter 19. Amy's Will. While these things were happening at home, Amy was having hard times at Aunt March's. She felt her exile deeply, for the first time in her life, realized how much she was beloved and petted at home. Aunt March never petted anyone. She did not approve of it, but she meant to be kind, for the well-beloved little girl pleased her very much, and Aunt March had a soft place in her old heart for her nephew's children, though she didn't think it proper to confess it. She really did her best to make Amy happy, but dear me, what mistakes she made. Some old people, kept young at heart in spite of wrinkles and gray hairs, can sympathize with children's little cares and joys, making them feel at home, and can hide wise lessons under pleasant plays, giving and receiving friendship in the sweetest way. But Aunt March had not this gift, and she worried Amy very much with her rules and orders, her prim ways, and long, prosy talks. Finding the child more docile and amiable than her sister, the old lady felt it her duty to try and counteract, as far as possible, the bad effects of home freedom and indulgence. So she took Amy by the hand, taught her as she herself been taught 60 years ago, a process which carried dismay to Amy's soul and made her feel like a fly in the web of a very strict spider. She had to wash the cups every morning and polish up the old-fashioned spoons, the fat silver teapot, the glasses till they shone. Then she must dust the room, and what a trying job that was. Not a speck escaped Aunt March's eye, and all the furniture had claw legs and much carving, which was never dusted to suit. Then Polly had to be fed, the lapdog combed, and the dozen trips upstairs and down to get things to deliver orders for the old lady was very lame and seldom left her big chair. After these tiresome labors she must do her lessons, which was a daily trial of every virtue she possessed. Then she was allowed 1 hour for exercise or play, and didn't she enjoy it? Laurie came every day and wheedled Aunt March until till Amy was allowed to go out with him, when they walked and rode and had capital times. After dinner she had to read aloud and sit while the old lady slept, which usually did for an hour, as she dropped off over the first page. Then patchwork or towels appeared, and Amy sewed with outward meekness and inward rebellion till dusk, when she was allowed to amuse herself as she liked till tea time. The evenings were the worst of all, for Aunt March fell to telling long stories about her youth, which were so unutterably dull that Amy always read to go to bed, intending to cry over her hard fate, but usually going to sleep before she had sneezed out more than a tear or two. If it had not been for Laurie and old Esther, the maid, she felt that she never could have gotten through that dreadful time. The parrot alone was enough to drive her distracted, for he soon felt that she did not admire him, and revenged himself by being as mischievous as possible. He pulled her hair whenever she came near him, upset his bread and milk to plague her when she had newly cleaned his cage, and made Mop bark by pecking